Welcome to Daily English Grow.
Hello, English learners! Welcome back to Daily English Grow, the place where you can improve your English with real conversations, practical expressions, and easy-to-understand lessons. I'm so happy you're here today. Today's episode is for B1, Intermediate Learners. So, if you already understand basic English but sometimes find it difficult to express yourself naturally, this lesson is perfect for you. Before we begin, I have one small favor to ask. If you enjoy learning English with Daily English Grow, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps more English learners discover these lessons. And don't forget to leave a comment. Even writing 1 or 2 simple sentences in English is excellent practice because every time you write in English, you're training your brain to think in English. Today's question is very simple. What's your name and where are you from? Write your answer in the comments. Don't worry about making mistakes. This is a safe place to practice, and every sentence you write helps you become a more confident English speaker. Now, let's get started. Today's topic is something that many English learners find difficult, and that is how to talk about yourself in English. Maybe someone asks you, "Can you tell me about yourself?" At first, it sounds like a very easy question. After all, you're talking about yourself. But then, suddenly, your mind goes completely blank. You know many English words. You understand grammar. You can answer simple questions like, "Where are you from?" Or, "What do you do?" But when someone says, "Tell me about yourself," everything disappears from your mind. If this has ever happened to you, don't worry. You're definitely not alone. Many English learners experience exactly the same thing. The good news is that introducing yourself doesn't have to be difficult. Today, I'll show you a simple structure that you can use anytime someone asks you to introduce yourself. We'll go step by step, and I'll give you many useful sentence examples that you can easily adapt to your own life. By the end of this lesson, you'll feel much more confident talking about yourself in English. Before we build your introduction, let's first understand why this skill is so important. Talking about yourself is one of the most useful communication skills you can learn because you'll use it in many different situations. You might need it when you meet a new classmate, start a new job, travel to another country, join an English class, attend a language exchange, or simply meet a new friend. In all of these situations, someone will probably ask you to introduce yourself. I remember the first few times I had to answer this question. I thought it would be easy because I know my own life better than anyone else. But when it was finally my turn to speak, I suddenly had too many ideas in my head. Should I talk about my job first? Should I mention my hobbies? Should I tell them where I live now or where I was born? Everything came to my mind at the same time, and instead of giving a clear answer, I jumped from one topic to another. Maybe you've experienced something similar. If you have, that's completely normal. The secret is not trying to say everything. Instead, think of your introduction as a short movie about your life. A movie doesn't show every single moment. It only shows the most important scenes. Your self-introduction should do exactly the same thing. Choose the most important information, say it clearly, and don't worry about adding every little detail. Remember, you don't need perfect English. You only need simple, clear sentences that you can say comfortably, even if you're feeling a little nervous. Before you introduce yourself, it's also helpful to think about the situation you're in. Generally, there are 3 common situations. The first is informal. This is when you're talking with friends, classmates, neighbors, or someone you meet casually. In this situation, your English can be relaxed and friendly. The second is semi-formal. This could be when you meet new colleagues, attend an event, or join a conference. You still sound friendly, but a little more professional. The third is formal. This includes situations like job interviews, official meetings, or speaking with a manager or teacher. In these situations, your language should be more polite and professional. The important thing isn't using difficult English. It's choosing the right style for the situation. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe with a friend. You probably wouldn't begin by saying, "Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to meet you." That sounds too formal for a casual conversation. On the other hand, if you're in a job interview, beginning with, "Hey, what's up?" probably isn't the best choice. So always look at the situation first, then choose the style that feels natural and appropriate. Now, let's build your introduction, step by step. The first part is your greeting. This is the very first thing people hear when you begin speaking. For formal situations, you can use simple greetings like good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or simply hello. For example, you might say good morning. Thank you for meeting with me today. It's polite, professional, and easy to remember. For semi-formal situations, you can say hi there, or simply morning. These greetings sound friendly while still being respectful. In informal situations, you can use greetings like hi, hey, or hey there. Some native speakers also say, "What's up?" or "How's it going?" However, don't feel like you have to use expressions that don't feel natural to you. The goal isn't to sound like someone else. The goal is to sound comfortable and confident. Choose one greeting that you like, practice it often, and make it your own. Something as simple as, "Hi, nice to meet you," or "Hello, good morning," is already a great way to begin. And don't forget that a warm smile can make even the simplest greeting sound friendly and welcoming. In the next part, we'll continue building your self-introduction by learning how to talk about your name, where you're from, where you live, and what you do. Now, let's continue with the next part of your introduction. After your greeting, the next thing people usually want to know is your name. This is very simple, but there are several natural ways to say it. You can say, "I'm Maya." You can also say, "My name is Maya." If you want to sound a little more polite, you can say, "Hello, my name is Maya. It's nice to meet you." Or, "Hi, I'm Maya. Nice to meet you." All of these are common and natural. Choose the one that feels the most comfortable for you and practice saying it until it becomes automatic. When you don't have to think about introducing your name, you'll feel much more confident during the rest of the conversation. After your name, people often ask where you're from and where you live. This helps them understand a little more about you. The easiest way to answer is by saying, "I'm from Algeria." You can also say, "I'm from Oran in Algeria," or "I'm from a small town in Algeria." If your birthplace and your current city are different, you can make your answer a little longer. For example, "I was born in a small town, but now I live in Oran." Another example is, "I'm originally from Algeria, but now I live in another city." If you've lived somewhere for a long time, you can say, "I've been living here for 3 years," or "I've been living here since 2022. But remember, you don't need long sentences. You can simply say, "I'm from Algeria, and I live in Oran." That's already a clear and complete answer. The goal isn't to impress people with difficult grammar. The goal is to help them understand you easily. The next question you'll hear very often is, "What do you do?" This means they're asking about your job or your studies. If you have a job, you can say, "I work as a teacher. I work as a nurse. I work as a shop assistant. I work as a driver." These are all simple and natural answers. You can also talk about the field you work in. For example, "I work in education. I work in marketing. I work in customer service. I work in sales." If you don't want to mention your company, that's completely fine. You can simply mention your profession or the industry you work in. If you're a student, you can say, "I'm a student," then add what you're studying. For example, "I'm a student and I study computer science." "I'm a student And I study business. I'm a university student studying English. These are all excellent answers. If you're currently looking for a job, you could say, I'm currently looking for a job while improving my English skills. Or, I'm focusing on my studies at the moment. Choose the sentence that matches your own life because your introduction should always sound honest and natural. Now let's talk about your family and your home. This is another topic people often ask about, especially when they're getting to know you better. They might ask, who do you live with? Or, do you live with your family? You can answer with short, simple sentences. For example, I live with my parents. I live with my husband and 2 children. I live with my wife and our son. If you live alone, you can say, I live alone in a small apartment. If you share your home with someone, you can say, I share an apartment with a friend. Or, I live with my cousin. These are all natural ways to answer. Sometimes people also ask if you have any brothers or sisters. You can say, I have 1 older brother. I have 2 younger sisters. I have 1 brother and 1 sister. If you don't have any siblings, you can simply say, I'm an only child. That's a very common expression in English. Remember, you don't need to tell people every detail about your family. A simple sentence or 2 is enough. Your goal is to give them a friendly picture of your life, not your entire life story. Take a moment and think about your own answers. Where are you from? Where do you live? What do you do? Who do you live with? If someone asked you these questions today, how would you answer them? Don't worry about making your answers perfect. Focus on making them clear. The more you practice these simple sentences, the more natural they'll become. Before long, introducing yourself in English will feel easy instead of stressful. In the next part, we'll continue with one of the most enjoyable sections of your self-introduction. You'll learn how to talk about your hobbies, your daily routine, your personality, and your future goals. And then we'll put everything together into one complete and natural self-introduction. Now let's move to one of the most enjoyable parts of introducing yourself, talking about your hobbies and your free time. This is the part that helps people understand your personality, not just the basic facts about your life. When you share your hobbies, you give the other person an opportunity to continue the conversation. You can begin with simple sentences like, in my free time, I like reading. In my free time, I enjoy cooking. When I have some free time, I like watching movies. I enjoy going for long walks. These are all natural and easy to understand. You can also say, I'm really into music. I'm really into photography. I'm really into fitness. Another common expression is, I'm a big fan of. For example, I'm a big fan of football. I'm a big fan of Korean dramas. I'm a big fan of science fiction movies. These expressions make your English sound more natural and conversational. You can also mention 2 or 3 hobbies together. For example, in my free time, I enjoy reading novels, listening to music, and spending time with my family. Or, I like cooking, watching documentaries, and learning new languages. Remember, your hobbies don't have to be exciting. You don't need to climb mountains or travel around the world. Even simple activities like reading, walking, drawing, watching movies, gardening, or playing video games are great things to talk about. The important thing is that your hobbies are real because it's much easier to speak confidently about something you genuinely enjoy. Another nice way to make your introduction sound more personal is by mentioning something you like and something you don't like. For example, I love coffee, but I don't like waking up early. Or, I love cats, but I don't like rainy weather. You could also say, I enjoy spicy food, but I don't like waiting in long lines. Small details like these make your introduction feel more natural because they show a little bit of your personality. They also give the other person something to ask about. They might say, oh, what kind of books do you like? Or, what's your favorite Korean drama? That's how conversations continue naturally. Now, let's talk about your daily routine. Sometimes people want to know what a normal day looks like for you. They may ask, what do you usually do during the week? Or, can you tell me about your typical day? Don't worry, you don't need to describe every hour of your day. Just mention 2 or 3 simple activities. For example, you can say, on weekdays, I usually wake up at 7 o'clock, have breakfast, and go to work. If you're a student, you could say, I usually wake up early, go to university, and study in the afternoon. Another example is, in the morning, I drink coffee, check my messages, and start working. You can also talk about your evenings by saying, after work, I usually exercise, have dinner with my family, and watch a TV series before going to bed. Or, in the evening, I like reading a book or studying English for about 30 minutes. These simple sentences help people imagine your daily life without giving too many unnecessary details. If you're learning English, this is also a great opportunity to mention it. You could say, after dinner, I usually spend some time studying English because I want to become more confident. Or, I try to practice English every day, even if it's only for 20 minutes. That's a wonderful sentence because it shows your motivation, and if you're talking with another English learner, you'll probably have something in common to discuss. After your daily routine, people sometimes ask you to describe yourself. This means they want to know what kind of person you are. At first, this question may seem difficult, but it's actually very simple if you know a few useful adjectives. You can describe yourself by saying, I'm friendly, I'm calm, I'm patient, I'm hardworking, I'm curious, I'm creative, I'm talkative, or I'm a little shy. If one adjective isn't enough, you can combine 2 or 3. For example, I'm a friendly and hardworking person. I'm calm, patient, and easy to talk to. Or, I'm a little shy when I meet new people, but I become more talkative once I feel comfortable. That's a very natural answer because many people feel exactly the same way. Another useful expression is, people say for example, people say I'm patient and reliable, or my friends say I'm funny and positive. Using this expression sounds natural because you're explaining how other people see you. Remember, you don't need to sound perfect. You only need to choose adjectives that honestly describe your personality. Being honest will always make you sound more confident than trying to use difficult words that don't really fit you. Now let's talk about your future plans. This is another question people often ask after they've learned a little about you. They might ask, what are your plans for the future? Or, why are you learning English? Don't worry if you don't have every detail of your future planned out. You don't need a perfect answer. One simple and honest sentence is enough. You can begin with phrases like, in the future, I'd like to, my goal is to, or one of my dreams is to. These are all very common expressions. For example, you could say, in the future, I'd like to travel to different countries. My goal is to speak English more confidently. One of my dreams is to start my own business. I'd like to work for an international company. I hope to continue my studies and build a successful career. If you're learning English, you can also say, my goal is to use English in my job and communicate with people from different countries. Or, I'm learning English because I want to travel more and feel confident speaking with others. These answers are simple, honest, and they show your motivation. Now you've learned all the main parts of a good self-introduction. Let's quickly review them together. First, you begin with a greeting. Then, you say your name. After that, you talk about where you're from and where you live. Next, you explain what you do, whether you work or study. Then you can say a little about your family or who you live with. After that, you share a few hobbies or interests. You can also mention your daily routine, describe your personality, and finally talk about your future goals or dreams. Remember, you don't have to include every single part every time you introduce yourself. Sometimes a short introduction is enough, and other times you can give a longer answer. It all depends on the situation. Now, let's put everything together into one simple example. Listen carefully and notice how each part connects naturally to the next. Hello, my name is Maya. I'm from Canada and I live in Toronto. I work as an English teacher and I really enjoy helping people become more confident in English. In my free time, I like reading books, going for walks, and watching movies. I usually start my day with a cup of coffee, answer my emails, and prepare my lessons. I'd say I'm a friendly, calm, and curious person. I enjoy meeting new people and learning about different cultures. In the future, I'd like to travel to more countries and continue creating English lessons that help learners around the world. As you can hear, this introduction isn't difficult. It's simply a few short ideas connected together in a natural way. Here's another example. Hi, I'm David. I'm from Australia, but I currently live in Melbourne. I'm a university student studying computer science. I live with my parents and my younger sister. In my free time, I enjoy playing football, listening to music, and learning new languages. During the week, I usually attend my classes, study in the afternoon, and spend some time practicing English in the evening. My friends say I'm hardworking and easy to talk to. One of my biggest goals is to become a software engineer and work for an international company. Notice that this introduction follows exactly the same structure. Only the personal details have changed. This is exactly what I want you to do. Don't memorize someone else's introduction. Instead, use this structure to create your own. Write about your own life, your own hobbies, your own personality, and your own dreams. The more personal your introduction is, the easier it will be to remember, and the more confident you'll sound when you speak. Here's a simple practice activity for you. After this lesson, take a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone. Write one sentence for each part of your introduction. Start with your greeting, then your name, where you're from, where you live, what you do, 1 or 2 hobbies, a few words about your personality, and one future goal. Don't try to write a perfect paragraph. Just focus on one sentence at a time. When you've finished writing, read your introduction out loud several times. The more you repeat it, the more natural it will become. Soon, you won't need to think about the words anymore. They'll come to you automatically whenever someone asks, "Can you tell me about yourself?" Now it's your turn to practice. I have a small challenge for you. I'd like you to introduce yourself in English using everything you've learned today. Don't worry if your introduction isn't perfect. The goal is simply to speak. Remember, confidence comes from practice, not from perfection. Start with just a few sentences if that's easier for you. As you become more comfortable, you can make your introduction longer by adding more details about yourself. For example, you could begin by saying, "Hi, my name is." Then say where you're from and where you live. After that, talk about your work or your studies. Next, mention 1 or 2 hobbies that you enjoy in your free time. You can also describe your personality with a couple of adjectives and finish by talking about one of your future goals. That's all you need. A good introduction isn't about using difficult vocabulary. It's about speaking clearly, naturally, and confidently. Here's another tip that can really help you improve. Don't only read your introduction silently, read it out loud. Listen to your own voice. If possible, record yourself on your phone and play it back. At first, it might feel a little strange, but this is one of the fastest ways to improve your pronunciation and speaking confidence. Every time you listen to yourself, you'll notice small things that you can improve. Little by little, your English will become smoother and more natural. Another great way to practice is by introducing yourself in different situations. Imagine you're meeting a new classmate. How would you introduce yourself? Now imagine you're in a job interview. How would your introduction change? Next, imagine you're talking to someone while traveling. Your introduction might be shorter and more relaxed. Practicing different situations helps you become a flexible speaker instead of memorizing only one script. Remember that speaking English is like building a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes. At the beginning, you may need to think carefully before every sentence. That's completely normal. After enough practice, those same sentences will come naturally, and you'll speak without translating every word in your head. That's when you'll start feeling truly confident. Before we finish today's lesson, I'd like you to remember one important message. Don't compare yourself with native speakers or with other English learners. Compare yourself with the person you were yesterday. If today you can say one more sentence than you could last week, you're making progress. Every new word you learn, every sentence you write, and every minute you spend practicing English brings you one step closer to fluency. Progress doesn't happen overnight. It happens through small, consistent practice every single day. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I really hope this lesson helped you feel more confident about introducing yourself in English. If it did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Daily English Grow, and share this lesson with a friend who's also learning English. And now I have one final challenge for you. Go down to the comments and introduce yourself in English. Write your name, where you're from, what you do, one hobby you enjoy, and one dream you have for the future. It doesn't matter if your introduction is short or long. The important thing is that you practice. I'll be so happy to read your comments and see your progress. Thank you again for joining me today. Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember that every conversation you have in English makes you a little stronger than before. Take care, stay motivated, and I'll see you in the next lesson here on Daily English Grow. Bye for now!